Minister, it's very hard to know sometimes how to articulate something that you've been campaigning on for almost 7 years. I and others have been convinced of the necessity for Ireland to change its drug policy for a long time. And I've been working with others and other political parties and other movements, in lobby groups, in community groups, to try and get Ireland to change its view of the drug user. And within all that, Minister, there is space now for us to talk as a country about the treatment that we have handed down to those who have used drugs, who use drugs, who are in addiction services. There is a huge misunderstanding of the nature of drug use. We have attempted over the course of the history of this state to shame those who take drugs as much as we possibly can, to criminalise them in an attempt that they might stop. But that has been the most catastrophic failure, policy failure on any level. It's an expensive disaster. It causes misery, pain, and death. The people who are most affected by it are the most vulnerable and powerless in Irish society. What you're actually doing when you criminalise somebody for their addiction or for their drug use, you're criminalising marginalisation. You're criminalising disconnection, because disproportionately the people who come into the criminal justice system as a result of being caught with something in their possession for their own personal use are from areas of disadvantage, are members of the travelling community, are migrants, are people with disabilities. And these are often people who are self-medicating trauma, self-medicating pain, trying to seek a connection. And what Irish society has done, what the Irish legislature has done, what this state has done, is to decide to criminalise that disconnection, to criminalise that marginalisation in an attempt to correct that individual. And it doesn't work. 70% of our cases in front of the courts, our drug cases, are for possession for personal use. It is a complete and utter waste of time, of money, of energy, and it doesn't work. So, Minister, we're waiting on the government. We're actually waiting on you, because myself and others across different parties in this Oireachtas have given you time, have given you space, have given you latitude to step up and be the advocate for the Citizens' Assembly on drugs. It would be easy for us in the opposition to dismiss the idea of a Citizens' Assembly on drugs to being a mere talking shop. But we decided, and I decided, and my party decided, that we had to come from a good place, a fair place, and to allow the Citizens' Assembly to be established, and within that to advocate for what we're trying to advocate, a radical overhaul of drug policy in Ireland. But, Minister, we are still waiting for you, and we're still waiting for the government to commit to establishing the Citizens' Assembly on drugs, where we can start a proper national conversation on a failed policy and to replace it with something new.
Thank you, and I want to thank you, Deputy Ríordáin, for raising this issue, and I welcome the opportunity to update the House regarding this very important topic. The programme of government includes the commitment to convene a number of citizens' assemblies, including one to consider matters relating to drug use. The specific timing of future citizen assemblies will shortly be finalised by government. Consideration is being given to the appropriate methodology for future citizens' assemblies, including one on drug use. And decisions will be guided by the experience of the Gender Equality Assembly, which completed earlier this year. An independent researcher was appointed by the Assembly to monitor and record, amongst other things, the perceived deliberative quality of the Assembly and this report, published in July 2021, will assist in decisions on future Assembly's use of virtual meetings. By their very nature, citizens' assemblies require large gatherings to be truly effective. Therefore, there has been an unavoidable delay in the establishment of the next citizen assemblies due to public health restrictions arising from the COVID-19 pandemic. The Department of Health's approach to the Citizen Assembly on drugs use will be informed by the Government's health-led approach to people who use drugs, as outlined in the National Drug Strategy. An important component of the health-led approach is the Health Diversion Programme, which will offer compassion, not punishment, to people who use drugs. This approach will connect people with health services and provide a pathway to recovery, thereby avoiding a criminal conviction. As outlined in the programme of government, the programme will be reviewed after the first year of implementation to ensure that it is meeting all of its aims and to make any necessary changes. The review could usefully inform the deliberations of the Citizens' Assembly on drug use. A strategic priority for the implementation of the National Drug Strategy for 2021 to 2025 is to promote alternatives to coercive sanctions for drug-related offences. This will include the exchange of best practice with EU Member States as part of the EU Drug Strategy 2021 to 2025. I believe, as you do, that Citizens' Assembly could usefully consider the learnings from the Health Diversion Programme and other similar alternatives to coercive sanctions, and it could also inform the development of the next National Drug Strategy to replace the existing strategy in 2025. I have been in touch with the leaders, and I understand that the timing of the Citizens' Assembly will be determined by the three leaders of the three parties in government. And I hope that, as I said, that this will be announced in the coming weeks.
Mr. Feehan, Deputy Ríordáin.
Okay, Minister. Well, look, there is a fantastic opportunity in the Oireachtas for us to achieve something. In the past number of years, we've actually managed to have a Justice Committee report on decriminalisation of the drug user that got support from every single political party. We had the passing of quite radical legislation in terms of the provision of an injecting centre. Of course, it has been objected to, but it still is law that you can have the establishment of an injecting facility in Ireland. It is law, and that was passed without a single objection from anybody in this House either. There is nobody in these houses who is standing up on a war on drugs platform. There's nobody here saying we need to have a zero tolerance. Everybody in this Oireachtas, from what I can see, is talking about the humane treatment of the person who is addicted to drugs because of the nature of that person's struggle to overcome the reasons why they got into addictions and the pathway they need to get out of it. So what I'm saying to you, Minister, is that I take a lot of comfort from your answer, is that you're saying in the next number of weeks we're going to have a decision on the Citizens' Assembly on drugs. But please, because I've heard so many reasons as to why we can't have the Citizens' Assembly to this point. I understand we have COVID. I understand there are other citizens' assemblies that people want to have, one on biodiversity, one on education. I understand all that. But the problem here is, Minister, the problem here is that the people who are most acutely affected by this are probably the most powerless people in the state. Because there is a sense that it's their own fault. There's a huge level of victim blaming. And I tell you, Minister, there's probably the only cohort of people in this land that you can still use a derogatory term to describe them on any radio programme or any television programme at any hour of the day or night and get away with it. So this is why this is so important. So, Minister, I appreciate your answer, but please, 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 can we get movement on this in a short space of time and have it established before the summer so that at least I can offer, and we can all offer those who feel as if they have no voice, that they have now a process where they can begin healing and begin to have a new approach to drug use in Ireland.
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister Feehan.
Again, I want to thank you, Deputy Ríordáin, for the opportunity to provide an update. And as I did say, the programme of government includes a commitment to convene a number of citizens' assemblies, including one to consider matters relating to drug use. And the specific timing of future citizen assemblies will shortly be finalised by Government, and I look forward to those few dates. The Government did establish a working group to consider alternative approaches to the possession of drugs for personal use in December 2017, and the work programme of the group consisted of meetings with experts from other countries, commissioning research on other jurisdictions, and undertaking a public consultation. The consultation process received responses from over 20,000 people and included the views of many people who use drugs. The working group examined the option of decriminalising drugs and did not deem this as an appropriate option in the Irish context due to legal difficulties which could lead to de facto legalisation of drugs as well as operational problems from Garda Síochána. The Government accepted the views of the working group on the decriminalisation of drugs, and accordingly there are no plans to decriminalise drugs. In line with this working group's recommendations, the Government agreed a health-led approach to possession of drugs for personal use in the form of the Health Diversion Programme. I would like to reassure the House that we are in the step with other EU member states on this issue, as the Health Diversion Programme is aligned with the strategic priority in the EU Drug Strategy 2021 to 2025 to provide alternatives to coercive sanctions for people who use drugs. In budget of 2022, I secured an additional €6 million for new measures to support the implementation of the National Drug Strategy, and this includes €0.7 million to commence the implementation of the Health Diversion Programme and will establish a national network of health screening and brief intervention services for people referred to the programme. And I look forward to commencement of the Health Diversion Programme, which will demonstrate a health-led approach and how we deal with people who use drugs. And you're right, we want to take the stigma out of this issue, and I think with the National Drug Strategy and the Health Diversion Programme will be a start. And I look forward to, in the coming weeks, that when the Government and the three-party leaders will be able to determine a date of when we will have a citizen assembly.